Well, here we go. How's it going, everybody? I know it's been a while, but got a couple of comments and messages asking, would I film any Seahawks videos? And the answer is I would if they got into the playoffs, because if they get into the playoffs, obviously got to talk about them, with them being one of my teams. But the reason why I haven't talked too much about the Seahawks this year is because my buddy Deshaun and I, in case you missed it before, we did a football week previewing all of the teams that we root for, and we are going to do that. So I'm going to save the majority of my opinions about the team for that and focus on the playoffs and the playoffs only. So we were originally going to do it at the end of the regular season because I didn't think the Seahawks were going to go to the playoffs this year, to be honest with you. My expectations were they would at least go 8-8 based on the year that they had the previous year. And Deshaun's Raiders did not make the playoffs, so we were expecting to do it at this time, right now, but we are going to wait until the Seahawks playoff run is over, meaning hopefully that will be in February when we're hoisting up that Vince Lombardi trophy. So we're back in the playoffs, first time in 2 years. They didn't win the NFC West, so I can't bring out the old 2010 NFC West champion T-shirt. But we did get a wild card. We got the 5th seed, and we're going to be on the road, being hosted by the Washington Redskins. This game will happen on Sunday, and I'm kind of surprised that we're the last game of the weekend. Just because normally that's not what happens to the Seahawks. I mean, usually we end up playing a Saturday game. I don't know how exactly they determine, but that's very good, the fact that we're going on the road and we still have a normal schedule compared to, a schedule where we are playing on Saturday. We have to figure out a travel day. We lose a day of practice, so that's good. We're gonna play Robert Griffin III, RG3, and the Washington Redskins. Now, there are some pros and cons with this game and going into the postseason. Do I think the Seahawks can win? Yes, I do. I think the Seahawks are good enough to win at least one playoff game, and then after that, it's kind of take one game at a time, and that's how I am when it comes to football. Got to take it one game at a time. So we are going to be hosted by the Washington Redskins on Saturday. Let's go over the cons first. The first con and the big factor is can this Seattle Seahawks team continue its momentum, not just in general with scoring a bunch of points all over the place, offense, defense, special teams, but can we continue to have success on the road? We only won 3 road games this year, them being against Carolina, Chicago, and Buffalo. Buffalo was kind of a neutral site because the game was in Toronto. But the game's still on the road. And the Seattle Seahawks historically have not played well on the road in the postseason. If you want to look at our first playoff win on the road and our only playoff win on the road, you got to go back to 1983 when we beat the Miami Dolphins in the AFC divisional round before losing to the, at the time, Los Angeles Raiders in the AFC championship game. So we're going to have to win on the road and do something that we haven't done since 1983. We are definitely going to have to deal with Robert Griffin III. The guy can pass. The guy can run. I think the biggest thing is we want to put pressure on him, but we have to keep him contained, which is going to be very difficult to do. We got to have a good balance of putting pressure on the pocket and also making sure that when we do put pressure on him, we have to get to him. Because the guy has the ability to roll out of the pocket and score touchdowns from 60, 80 yards. I mean, I have seen him play once. I didn't watch any Redskins games this year, but I did see him play when he was with Baylor against the Washington Huskies. He's very composed. He can throw the ball incredibly well. He's got a smooth release. So definitely going to be a factor. Another thing is this is probably not so much as big a deal as it would have been if the Seahawks were still in the AFC West. But Mike Shanahan, the head coach, was the coach for the Denver Broncos for many years, and I don't know his record, but I can assume that he has a winning record against the Seattle Seahawks. So there is that as well. Another thing that is kind of is that the Seahawks really haven't had a game this year where we've been blowing out, and I've been waiting for that game to happen. And as the season has progressed, I haven't really, it hasn't happened yet. And so I'm waiting for them to get blown out, but they've been competitive, and they were competitive or they blew out their opponents, and it's been like that way the entire season. So those are the cons. Hopefully that won't happen in the playoffs. The pros are, we got absolutely no pressure. We have a young team, first playoff appearance for the most part. We had a mix of Holmgren and Jim Mora players the last time we were in the playoffs. We got a really young team. We got no pressure on us whatsoever. We got a wild card, the guard berth. You know, pressure's on the Redskins. So that's another thing. Another pro is that we're gonna have both our corners back. Richard Sherman won his appeal in terms of dealing with the suspension for using illegal drugs. He won his appeal. We got him for the playoffs. We also have Brendan Browner. His 4-game suspension is over. I thought that was very cool to get his suspension out of the way so he can be back for the playoffs. Now, another thing is we are incredibly healthy right now. We're incredibly healthy. In fact, a lot of people are saying that we are the healthiest team in the going into the playoffs. And last but not least, not to discredit the Redskins or anything like that, but we do have success against the Redskins in the past. When we made our run to the Super Bowl in 2005, we beat the Redskins. And I understand that as of right now, on this day, January 1st, 2013, Happy New Year, by the way, that was the best Seattle Seahawks team ever. It was the first, and as of right now, the only team ever to go to the Super Bowl. We took down the Redskins. However, the Redskins didn't make it easy for us. Obviously, probably there was no intention, but they probably had a game plan where they wanted to stop the run. Well, not only did we struggle in the running game a little bit, but Sean Alexander left that game with a concussion. So Sean Alexander did not play the majority of that game. You look at 2007, when we beat the Redskins at home before losing to the Packers on the road. The Redskins came back in the fourth quarter after being down 13 to nothing. Before that game got ridiculously out of hand, that was a competitive game. The score did not show how close that game was. So we do have success against the Washington Redskins, and a lot of people are talking a lot about RG3. They're not talking about our young quarterback, Russell Wilson. And so that's definitely, there's, again, no pressure. So I do think the Seahawks will win. It's going to be close. I'm very happy that it is a 1 o'clock Pacific time kickoff, so we don't have to worry about playing at a 10 a.m. game, so we don't have that controversy. And so let's go Hawks. I do think we can win, and depending on who they play the following week will determine, I think, whether or not they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But we're making national attention with our defense. Our defense is going to come out, but we got to put pressure on Robert Griffin III and keep him contained in the pocket. It's going to be key. So we'll talk to you all later. Go Hawks, and I'll recap the game on Sunday. See ya.